They were focusing on the citizens' development. They were focusing on the nation development. That's why, because the Sri Lanka were not focusing on the nation development. They were mostly focused on the ecological preservation. That's why they have fallen back.
Okay, thank you.
Just a follow-up question. If they are focusing on ecological preservation, then how could they have a shortage of fuel?
My answer to is that we have to see in the holistically, because we, as a ecologically, not ecologically, I would say it is the economically, sustainability, and geopolitically we have to say. My answer is that.
Thank you. I think he's made his point. I think what he's tried to say is that the Sri Lanka chose one over the other, whereas the other countries chose to focus on both. My next speaker.
Sir, another question can be addressed.
Who is it?
Sir, here.
I can't see.
Sir.
Sorry, okay, yeah. Anuj, you have actually asked, would you like to take question, please? We are actually running, please come on stage. Shams.
Sir, you mentioned the part
Please
of...
be brief and quick because I would like to speak.
Sir, you mentioned the part of Sri Lanka, whereas Sri Lankan crisis was the series of many events which was because mainly of the government, failing of the government planning. And so you are talking about the country focused on the development on the economical side, but ecological side, but sir, the other countries who have focused on the ecological side development are fostering like the countries which are ranked top on the HDIs. So sir, how will you justify that a country who was primarily fall into economic crisis because it was focusing on the ecological side? Thank you.
Can you give an example that you have said ecological country do not fall? Because I have given the example of Sri Lanka. Can you give the example of other countries?
Okay, in that case, you know, we can, there are many questions. These deep questions can continue. We're running short of time. So if you have a answer immediately, otherwise I'll move on to the next speaker, please.
That is mine.
Yeah, okay. Some of the questions and queries, you all can take it offline and discuss among yourself. Right. The next speaker is Priya Protim Phukon. Priya Protim Phukon from AIMS Guwahati will speak for the motion. You're a doctor? Yeah. Medical student. Just wait for the bell to ring. Yeah. Then your time starts now.
First life, then space, then building around us, not the other way around. Good afternoon, Speaker Sir, and respected members of the House. Today, what is climate crisis? Why climate crisis? Climate crisis is all primarily due to human activities. We have released so much of carbon dioxide emissions and greenhouse gases into our atmosphere that ultimately it leads to the environmental depletion. Is India really ready for such kind of climate changes? Speaker Sir, the answer is no. According to the Deloitte research papers, it has been submitted that India will lose $36 trillion in the next 50 years. Even in the poor countries like Zimbabwe and Malawi, they have, between 2008 to 2022, there was a reporting of 1,400 natural disaster cases, which ultimately leading to the loss of $16 trillion and migration of lakhs of people. Who are responsible for those people? My next is increase in the global temperature, increase in the melting of glaciers, increase in the level of seawater. What? This causes flood and tsunami. So, in India, India is a vast and a large country. In India, we are economically dependent in agriculture. Agriculture constitutes less than 18%, but in the history, it was constituting more than 25%. So, because of environmental crisis, the flooding caused, the natural tsunamis caused, or everything is devastating our environment. One said that from William Shakespeare that if we don't know the value of water, we may not feel it in the later on.
Yeah, you want to make another point?
Okay.
You're done with
Yes,
your this?
yes, sir.
Yeah?
Thank you.
So well within your time. Would there be, your time got over just now. Would there be any questions for Priya Pratim? Okay, I'll call the next speaker then. Thank you very much. Jishnu Kinkor Mohanto, who will speak against the motion, Ajya Vidyapit College. Jishu or Jishnu? Jishu. Jishnu, okay, yeah, so I've said it right. Yeah, Jishnu Kinkor Mohanto from Ajya Vidyapit College. He will speak against the motion.
So am I audible?
You're audible. Just wait for the bell. Proceed.
Honorable Speaker, sir, the opposition has finally convinced me that their arguments are nothing but just a bunch of expression and exaggeration. And I'm going to quote the Dimmock versus Secretary of State for Education, the judgment which appeared in the United Kingdom High Court, stating that a documentary named An Inconvenient Truth, which aired on 2006, has also covered the very issues of the climate crisis, but it had nothing to do with the reality. Only it was a bunch of exaggeration. And I believe my opposition bench has, gathered all the arguments from that very document, sir. Speaker, sir, we need to understand that we need to understand that the implications on India's geopolitics is not because of the climate crisis, but just because of the warfare and the border politics which takes place. If we very closely follow the Panchsheel Agreement of India, it basically discusses about the sovereignty and also discusses about the border politics. Sadly, India has surrounded by countries like China and Pakistan. Of course, we definitely went to war with Pakistan and China, but I do not believe that we went to war on the very basis of climate crisis, but we went to war because of the border conflicts. So, India definitely has signed multiple treaties for climate crisis, but the only two treaty which has protected the sovereignty of India is the NPT and the 1951 Refugee Convention. Apart from that, any other treaty related to the climate crisis has not been able to give India their sovereignty power. Speaker, sir, when we move into the discussion of the topic economics, we need to take the consideration of those people who have and those people who do not have, and what's the role of the government. Speaker, sir, allow me to introduce some facts into the podium. According to the National Statistical Offices, which produces a report annually, it stated that according to the periodic labor force survey, the unemployment rate has increased from 2.2% to 4.1% from 2021 to 2020. It has definitely nothing to do with the climate crisis, but it has something to do with the government. Also, sir, the World Bank report, which states that India's infrastructure gap has estimated to be around $1.5 trillion, and the balance of payment is in deficit, where exports and imports are decreased by 6.9% to and 3.63%, Speaker, sir. We also need to understand that this has nothing to do with the climate crisis, but it has something to do with the government. Also, sir, of course, the top 10% of the wealth holders in India are owned by 77% of the total wealth in 2019. We can see that the very word in the preamble, the word socialism, is only extended in the preamble and not in the country of India. Thank you.
Please wait. Are there any questions for him?
Thank you. I am Shivang Sinha from Silchar, and my question to you, sir, is that in your speech, in one way or the other, you have glorified the Panchsheel Agreement. But I would like to make clear to the House that a clause in Panchsheel Agreement stated that the countries of India and China will respect each other's territorial integrity. And I would like to make it clear that it was this cause which enabled India to intervene when China annexed Tibet forcefully. India was unable to do anything just because of this clause. So I want to hear your opinion on this topic.
So exactly, that's what I said, that the very basis of geopolitics has nothing to do with climate change at all, especially for India. You have now just helped me to glorify my stance that it is just because of the border politics or the border issues, we have enemies between others and not because of the climate crisis. Thank you for helping me to justify my own point.
Just a follow-up question.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Can you please explain how Panchsheel Agreement and the Chinese accession of Tibet is related to climate crisis?
Exactly, that's what my point, that it has nothing to do.